Hi, I'm Bobby, and you're watching Rated T for TTRPG.
Hey
Oh,
guys.
what's up? It's been a minute. Well, for me, not for him. So today we're gonna be. I haven't read this one yet, but the title is "Thought I was playing D&D wrong, but I think my DM was rigid," and I'm pretty sure just based off the title, we can all think of a situation like that. So let's get into it. It's not the worst horror story compared to others, but I had a bad experience with D&D to the point I didn't want to play again. I was told by the DM I was bad at playing D&D because I didn't understand it, despite the fact I read the wizard section in the book, wikis, guides, and watching YouTube videos. Okay. For a while I thought I was a bad player, but the more I watched other D&D shows like Dimension 20, I didn't know if I was at fault, especially because none of the other players said otherwise. My only issue so far is comparing how you're playing to something like Dimension 20, Critical Role. I think I've gone on a small tangent about this before. I hate it. Do not compare how you play to how others play. Every table is different. Every DM is different.
Yeah, but if he's wanting to make sure that he's not doing a bad job, if your dungeon master's being a jerk and saying that you're a bad
That's valid.
player,
No, that is 100% valid. Just on this first paragraph, that the Dimension 20, I immediately think, just off this first paragraph, that might be part of the issue. Is because they also do a lot of rule of cool,
yeah.
which I am all for rule of cool. He's my DM. You can ask him. I try rule of cooling all sorts of shit. But not everyone's up for that all the time. I understand, but let's continue. I played D&D with my friend who was the DM. It was also her first time DMing. That could be part of the issue. Well, I kind of wormed my way
First
into
time
it.
DMing and is like, you suck at this.
Right?
Because you know what you're talking about.
Well, I kind of wormed my way into it because I wanted to be part of a campaign badly. When she mentioned she was running a campaign for the first time, I wanted to play. I probably shouldn't have, since the only character that was left was a wizard. Oh, I'm seeing where this is going. Not great for a newbie, valid, and I'd be joining in mid-story, also valid. But I was insistent and she relented. Her husband assured me that it'd be chill and easy. He's played D&D before and more experienced, and they mostly roleplay instead of battling. That's fair. It sounds like pre-made characters were a thing, which I'm not the biggest fan of personally. If you guys like doing that for your games, that's up to you. I think it takes away some agency from the player.
Yeah, and locking them into, the only thing left that you can play is the wizard. That
Let me play a part. I will gladly run a campaign where all of you are playing two classes and just taking every subclass. I'm cool with that. To me, that makes more sense. But when we got to playing, not gonna lie, it was kind of boring because my character rarely got to roleplay with the other NPCs or characters. One time I was killed and waited to be resurrected as a zombie for a long time. I ended up taking a nap with a wolf, which I was happy with, but I didn't think I would wait a long time for my character to wake up. My character was off doing something else separate from the group in order to catch up to the other players' levels, and other players got to do more role playing, mainly the DM's husband. I'm seeing some favoritism.
plus a lot of splitting off is not great.
I'm only okay with like hardcore splitting off if there's a co-DM, and that's kind of hard to. You kind of have to find someone to co-DM that is like on the same page as you, and that is also like low key a player.
Yeah.
That's just kind of guiding the story and everything. And also, I'm not a fan of separating like the player characters and levels at least super far. Like a level here and there that can be considered like a gift. Like, hey, you did this really cool thing. You did a lot of character progression. You have been coming in clutch. Here is like X amount of XP. You're like what, like 10,000 XP higher than everyone else. That's not a big deal. You can catch that up. But it sounds like it's multiple levels. But I rarely got a chance or turn to speak. Or even when I tried to, usually the DM's husband or other male player got to roleplay more. Sometimes I would zone out because I never got to roleplay, and the times I did get a turn, she would yell at me if I didn't say what she wanted me to. Or get mad when I tried to improv like some D&D videos suggested on roleplaying. I never got to do a session 0, and I didn't know much about the world she created or where the story was supposed to be going. So yeah, this is 100% on the DM so far.
Yeah, that saying that they're yelling at you, that definitely, I want some verbatims, or to like get a little bit of the dungeon master's perspective, because that sounds so far like you just have an incredibly toxic dungeon master and you need out of there, because no Dungeons and Dragons is better than a bad
And I
Dungeons
know
and
the DM's a
Dragons.
woman, but I think it's also kind of a little sexist because like she's let from what at least from what OP is saying, she's letting the dudes role play a whole lot and everything. And at least in my opinion, if you're a wizard, you're going to do a lot more role playing than anything else. Hell, even your combat terms are mostly role playing because you're looking for your fucking spells.
Plus, you gotta add a little pizzazz to your
Yeah.
magic.
If you're not flavoring your magic, what are you even doing as a caster? My DM would also get mad at me when I prepare the wrong spell slots for our session. Like if I didn't prepare Magic Missile for when we were going to have a battle, and we kept having lots of battles, so I kept more battle spells ready just in case. And since I was level 1, I didn't have much space for other spells. Then she'd get mad at me for not having a spell lined up like Comprehend Language for a particular session because that was needed to progress the story. Anytime I asked for clarification, if I could use a certain spell in a situation, she'd yell at me saying, I don't know how to play or didn't read.
It almost feels like they made this player be like a background character, you know, like the side,
Yeah.
the secondary like side
Support
characters that you can
character
have.
C.
Yeah. That's so awful.
And like, I play a lot of casters, and I don't like how they did 5e wizards for this very reason. Earlier editions, if you played 3.5, you know, you didn't really have to prepare spells super heavy. Like, you did, but your spell book was kind of your spell list. And with this, you can't always predict what spells you're going to fucking need.
Yeah.
Not to mention, battles were kind of hard due to the battlefield being spacious. I spent a lot of my time mainly moving my character so I could cast spells within range for a newbie wizard. There would be a lot of enemies, and they had a lot of health. Plus, I didn't have a great luck rolling my d20. Join the club. The DM yelled at me for rolling low numbers sometimes, even though I was using a dice rolling website. If anything, we get pity when we roll low numbers. Like my 6 nat 1s in a row.
How dare you get those 6 nat 1s? You're terrible. You're bringing down the party. Get out of here.
Okay, I'm going to cast Comprehend Language to understand what you just said to me. Eventually, we stopped playing D&D due to other life stuff. But I didn't like D&D because I thought I was bad at playing it. When I discovered D20, they put D20 but Dimension 20. I was confused because my sessions were never like this. I don't expect the minifigures, overarching planned out story, and that not all DMs are supposed to be Bleem. Someone's going to have to...
Brennan Lee Mulligan.
Is that what that is?
BLM?
EEM?
Yeah, Brandon Lee Mulligan. That's cute.
Okay.
So
I don't know who that... I don't
huge
watch
fan.
a lot of those. But I didn't realize everyone was supposed to get a turn for their character, and most of them got equal time. The fights were well thought out on how much enemies there are and how much health they have. But what got me was watching Dungeons and Drag Queens, seeing newbies at D&D playing, and Brandon Lee Mulligan being patient and helping them just hit me.
You'd get a kick out of that one.
Okay, I'll have to watch it. That's what I wished happened when I played with my friend. I know D&D shows are different, edited, and give their players more prep behind the scenes, but D20 looks so much fun, and I'm frustrated my D&D experience wasn't like this. This is why I don't compare to shows, because I fully agree with what OP has said so far, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't prep. You played with me for a year and some change now. I don't prep shit.
Yeah.
What I do is the crystal guides. What I probably should have done was talk to the DM. She did suggest that one of the other players to explain to me on how to play D&D. Which I did a Zoom meeting with him, but he just talked over me and I didn't get to ask any questions.
Oh. He just keeps having bad experiences.
And a lot of it was the basics that I already knew. That would frustrate the hell out of me. He was nice, but I don't think he realized that he was monopolizing the conversation. I also kept lying to her, saying that she was a great DM because it was her first time, and I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I should have been honest, but since it was my first time playing D&D, I thought I was just doing it wrong. But maybe I should have realized it when she'd also get mad at the players choosing the side quests instead of following the main story. But since she's the DM, she didn't have to make the side quests, right? Yeah, I had a DM do something like that. It was a module that he was kind of running that he was editing a little bit. It was his first time DMing. It was a time sensitive thing. So instead of going and doing all of these side quests, we just hung out for like the 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then he straight called me, chewed me out, and this is at like 11 p.m. And then at one point threatened me. And that's the last time I played with him.
Okay. Look, drop your toxic dungeon masters. It's that simple, okay?
Similar to your toxic parents. Go non-contact.
Yeah. It's good advice.
Now I don't play any D&D. The closest is watching D20, but not gonna lie, I feel jealous and frustration sometimes watching them.
Aww.
But that's more on me because that's what I wanted from my friend. A nice, patient DM to newbies. I guess a part of me wants to know if I was bad at playing D&D and what were my shortcomings and if my DM was being rigid and controlling. Absolutely rigid, absolutely controlling, because why place options and then get mad at people for following said options?
I don't know. I do feel like they didn't give much of the examples as to how they themselves were being as a player. It was just kind of a lot of, at least from my perspective, the dungeon master just yelling at the players. And it sounds like then at the end they mentioned that the dungeon master is yelling at all of the players. This sounds like this was just somebody who was not meant to be a dungeon master. I'm curious if that person's still dungeon masters.
I would honestly want to sit down and watch like one recorded session.
Yeah.
That I think would answer a lot of questions. And honestly, I think like a good majority of the issue, and if someone has a different opinion, hop in and say something. But I think the class was probably a huge part of the issue. OP was talking about having to, because it was a hard fight because it was spacious. When I play casters, that's my fucking playground. Oh no, 300 feet? I'm going to sit over here at 290 and just fireball.
I also think some people that do have potential to be dungeon masters need a lot more coaching than others.
Yeah.
Like my brother needs a lot of, with love, a lot of hand holding when it comes to figuring out like kind of your proper social etiquette for Dungeons and Dragons, because a lot of times he can be a pretty evil up against the players kind of dungeon master.
Yeah.
And at least for me, that's what, as one of his only players, I have to be like, I'm like, look, I don't want to play with you if you're going to be that kind of a dungeon master, but that's just my preference.
Honestly, from what I sat in, he was actually doing pretty good for his first time for the most part. Now, as far as like the DM versus player DM style, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Majority of people that like to do that though go overboard with it.
Yeah.
And it ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like min-maxing.
For me, it kind of falls into the same tropes as like being a player and a dungeon master inside. There's just so many things that you are going to do that's going to piss off your players, not in a fun way.
I don't know.
This dungeon master, though, just yelling at your players, why? Just don't, unless they're being super rowdy and you need to corral them in, then, like, I get, like, you gotta control the room.
But I just start adding minis onto the map. Derek, when we were doing, what is it? It's the module where you're escaping the Underdark from prison.
Yeah.
He implemented a whole new option to it, and he was a brand new DM to it, and he would even tell us, he's like, all right, you guys got 5 minutes to discuss what you're doing before more people start showing up. And that motherfucker turned on a timer and everything.
Those are good.
I have never felt so rushed in my life.
That gets the heart pumping. That's good stuff.
But yeah, if you guys have any stories that you want read, if you guys have any of your own stories, leave them in the comments. And if there's something, if you don't like the tangents I go on, chew me out in the comments. I'll probably respond back.
Yeah, comments help us out. So do a like and to subscribe if you enjoyed it. But also, the big question that I've got is if you've ever had a dungeon master just straight yell at you for just something that you did as a player before. I've never had that happen, and I would leave immediately. I'd be like, "Cool,
That's fair.
I'm done. I don't need this game. Thanks, though."
I've gotten mad at my players before because they exploited something that I overlooked on my own monster that I custom built.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a, before anyone chews me out in the comments, it wasn't like a mad of like I'm chewing them out and everything. I'm like, you guys just, I prepped for like 3 days building that bitch, and they killed it in like 20 minutes.
That sounds like me. That sounds like all of my boss fights.
Yeah.
It's hard to balance. But as Serenity always likes to say, hit that like button, and thanks for watching! Woo!